All right, guys. So it's been a long time since we talked about the cultural aspects of the beautiful game. I mean, a while back I did do a video on French players not being racially white, but today I wanted to do a video on, Indian footballers. Why there are not that many Indian footballers, or really any good ones out there in the big leagues. The reason for that, and more importantly, when we do get one in the future, if we get one in the future, what country are they going to come from? So stick around for that at the end. So a lot of like interesting conversations here, right on this subreddit. Like, funny comment here. Vinny Jr. and Rodrigo apparently are Indian. So here, this guy, he mentions like this one French player who played on the French national team apparently and was actually a pretty good player as well. Like he was one of the best players in Liga because the Rasu. So I had to look into this guy a little bit. So I'm gonna do the next part of the video on him actually. So this is the player right here, and apparently this guy had a relatively successful career in Liga. He played for the likes of one. He played for AC Milan, like so 12 appearances for a pretty good team at the time, and also played for PSG. You know, great career overall. Like at least by Indian player standards, right? I mean, not many have risen to the heights that this guy did, and he was a part of the team that okay, apparently they didn't win the World Cup. This was the French team that was runner up to the infamous World Cup where Zidane headbutted that one Italian player. But yeah, apparently this guy was on that team. So from 99 to 2006 he played on a pretty good French team. So I guess if you want to know the ceiling so far for a player of Indian origin, here it is. Like apparently this is one of the ceilings. Like this is the guy. So yeah, is that ceiling ever going to be broken? In my opinion, I'm going to get a little bit more into that in the video. So as we look into the numbers here, just the population of England overall, um, you know, right here, since Indians fall under Asian, we'll just scroll down a little bit by ethnicity. There's more Indian people than black people in England. But you look at the numbers on the pitch, there's no Indian footballers on the pitch for the English national team, but a great number of black English footballers on the pitch for the English national team. And obviously, that's just the case in a lot of sports, but why so few British South Asians in football, right? Why is that? Like, why is that the case? So apparently, you know, they launched an investigation into this, and I'm just scrolling down because if you think about it, if we were gonna have a South Asian or just an Indian player come through that was gonna make it big on the international stage, he would probably come from England because there's a lot of Indian people in the UK and football is pretty big there compared to a lot of other countries. Like you have the English Premier League. So a lot of stereotypes people say, well, maybe Indians prefer cricket. Apparently that's not true. Or maybe they want their kids to focus more on education, right? He's like, that might have been true back in the 50s and 60s, but not so much right now. And then there's cases such as, the diet, which really infuriated this person. But apparently, like, long story short, you know, the racial stereotype is still around in sports. And at the end of the day, when you look at it, right, like France, which barely has any Indian people in it, has had a player of Indian descent or Indian background start on their team, which almost won a World Cup. Like this person was on the team for France, which barely has any Indian people in it. There's an Indian player on the Austrian national team, or a player of Indian heritage on the Austrian national team. Austria does not have nearly as many Indians as the UK. So apparently, you know, it's fair to make assumptions that England's soccer culture, oh, I'm saying soccer again like an American, England's football culture is not very welcoming of South Asians. So, I mean, and it's fair to make that assumption. So, in my opinion, when we do have in the future a player of South Asian background make it big on the stage, I don't believe that player is going to come from the UK. I actually don't. I don't believe that that is where the best player or the best player of South Asian heritage in the future is going to come from. He's not going to come from India either because the grassroots movement for the sport there sucks. So, in my opinion, like it's not going to happen from the UK. I'm just saying it right now. Like you're not going to have an outstanding Indian footballer come from the UK. So where is he going to come from? We're going to cover that on like the final part of the video. And by the way, like this article, man, it just goes on forever and ever and ever. So, if you haven't heard of this player here, there's a pretty good reason why. But I wanted to highlight why, this player here and his success in his youth is pretty significant, right? So, as you can tell by the name, he's of Indian descent. So, he was born to an Indian father and a European American mother. Huh. Interesting, like, a way to put that. But, anyways, um, born in Mountain View, California. But as you can see from here, youth career, pretty good one. Like joined Real Madrid and Ajax. So when he was like 12 years old, teams like Barcelona and Real Madrid were just trying to, get him. But he signed with Real Madrid and became the first American as well as the first player of Indian descent to join the club's youth program, which is pretty neat. But as you can see, the career never really panned out. I mean, just like a lot of football careers, obviously. Another player I want to bring your attention to, from the Quakes Academy. As you can see, based on his name of Indian descent, who knows, where his career will go. All in all, I'm trying to make the point that if we do get the next big or the only big Indian footballer in the world, I believe that he's going to be from America, in my opinion. I believe that he's going to be of American nationality. I believe that, the culture in America or the football culture in America is just, it's a lot more open minded to this sort of stuff or, just various backgrounds compared to the football culture in the UK. So, in my opinion, it will probably go something like this. Either A, the most likely situation, I feel like we're going to get an Indian footballer of American nationality. I think that that's the most likely scenario. Obviously, I say American, but I'll throw Canada in there too because, you know, a lot of Indians in Canada doing it big. So, America and Canada are like two countries I feel like are most likely to produce the only or the first big Indian footballer on the planet, especially as the sport grows here. After that, I feel like maybe you get an Indian footballer from a Western European country that is not the UK. So, we already had a pretty big Indian footballer from France a couple decades ago that I discussed. But if not him, then it's like, could be from a country like Austria, Germany, or one of these countries, right? Cannot see it with Spain or Italy, obviously, given the culture in those countries, but it's definitely not going to be the UK. I can tell you that much. It will never be the UK. So after Western Europe, so number one, you have America and Canada. Number two, actually, I'll say America, then Canada, then Western Europe, not the UK. And then after that, you'll just have India itself. Maybe the grassroots programs there, like, it really grows. So perhaps you'll have a player from a country that has a billion population or over a billion in population who really sticks out. And one of these big clubs, sees it, they grab him up, and he joins their youth academy and he ends up doing well there. So that's going to be like the four most likely places. I don't even put the UK on the list. I don't think it's ever going to happen there simply because of the culture of the country. Like, there's not a lot to like about British society. It's just not. And yeah, so I think those four places are where we're going to get like the next or like the only or wait, the first big Indian footballer is going to come from either of those four places. But if I had to hedge my bets, right? If I was a betting man, I would say it's gonna happen with the United States. It's gonna be from the United States. Because I mean, look, this kid here. I mean, it's sad that his career didn't really pan out. I mean, he's 22, but in the sports world, that's kind of old to really get a career going. But you look at what he was able to do with Real Madrid. I mean, that is insanely impressive. Like that is so amazing as an American at the time. So, in my opinion, it's gonna happen with the U.S. I think America is where we're gonna have the first ever Indian footballer that makes it big. So yeah, there we go.